Hey guys, welcome to episode 23 of Three Losers in a Church. Today we are diving into a topic that I'm actually really excited to talk about. Um, the the topic at hand is Christian concerts. The first question that we have up, thanks to Chris for writing all these things, is it
Mhm.
wrong for Christian bands / worship bands to charge money for Christian concerts? Ooh, I'm ready to get. I fight with my sister about this all the time.
Do you?
It's kind of weird. Then she questions, why would you want to go to a Kendrick Lamar concert? And I'm like, well, that's different.
I can't get a gauge on how this is gonna go. So
I'm scared.
I'm very intrigued.
That could go
I
very
actually don't know
badly
your.
or
I don't
well.
know.
Yeah,
You've hinted
same.
at it, but I don't know your true. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think I know fully how I feel
Neither
about
do
it yet,
I,
so
yeah.
yeah, Chris, this is your idea. So yeah, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it for a while because there was that Hillsong concert. I think it was Hillsong in Boston a while back that I was supposed to go to, but I couldn't because I waited too long to buy tickets. But I was telling some people I was going, and some people were like, "Yeah, Hillsong concert," and other people were like, "Yeah, I don't know how I feel about paying to worship, basically." And it kind of got me thinking because I majored in music and we've talked about this, how like you're providing a service, for lack of a better word. You're providing something you're producing and making. So is it really that much of a problem to charge money for it?
Mhm.
But also it's like supposed to be for the glory of God. So like at what point do you what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. At what point do you differentiate between
Yeah.
the two, and like where's the line?
mm,
Because at what point is it like, well, I shouldn't be charging money for anything I do because everything I do is for the glory of God, you know? And then I went to that Chris Tomlin concert last year, and like there was literally a sermon in the middle of the concert. So it's like you could argue that I paid to go to an extended church service,
Yeah.
but
mm.
it didn't, I don't know. But also it was a lot of live music. So it's been on my mind for a while now.
You brought up this interesting point of like I should not be paid for any service that I do. And I was like,
Right.
oh. My first thought is like, dang, like, yeah. But also like, no, I don't like you can't live a life like that, right?
Mhm.
Like, I don't know. But then there's the whole like, I don't know, Jesus flipping tables in the temple.
Right.
But like,
But we
it's
also
a
like
weird-
pay pastors, you know?
right? And
Yes.
so like,
So,
I like don't have much of an answer. But like the point you brought up in the beginning of like they're providing a service, I think is a good like jumping off point of like, so they like Hillsong is an example. Are traveling from I don't know where they're traveling from. I don't know which example band they were or where these people are, but
mm,
they are touring around the country or the world, and they're taking time off from their jobs and from their lives, and they're going out and they are providing a service. Right? So, you know, the math and business side of my brain goes, okay, then yes, they deserve to be paid.
right.
But like,
Because you're traveling, like you have
right,
to
right,
pay for
there's,
expenses. Yeah.
there's a there's like a level of like I almost said discomfort, but like obnoxiousness. There's another word. I can't think of it right now. But like they are being put out of their way
Mhm.
to provide this, right? So like compensation is,
Right.
required. So like, but also like they are producing intellectual property and performing, and we pay other musicians. So like, why wouldn't we pay them?
Mhm.
But also like they shouldn't be scamming or trying to make a profit, or like they
Mhm.
should be doing it for other reasons.
Right. Because then it's like,
Ah,
then you start thinking about like ticket prices. And I don't know how much
yeah, I
say
have no clue.
they have over that because like Ticketmaster is a giant scam. If you're listening, Ticketmaster,
Ticketmaster, I'm coming after you.
I'm sure you're listening to our podcast.
I'll
but
just get booked for some massive venue now.
Right.
Only housed by Ticketmaster.
but like like if they're making a huge profit, then it gets into a different conversation of
Mhm.
like, do we judge what they're doing with their money and their finances, or like, I don't know, that gets kind of meta, but yeah, like, yeah, I think of like people who work for parachurches like InterVarsity or Crew, and they like
Yeah.
raise their own salary so that they can go and travel and everything. But these people are also traveling, and to imply that they shouldn't be like profiting, like you said, I don't know, seems weird to me, or at least like being able to live.
Right.
Like,
And like just to, I think all of us can agree. I don't think they're making millions off of touring.
Right,
And I
yeah.
like from my perspective, I don't think that they're like we're not attacking Hillsong here saying like
No.
oh
No,
that
not
they
at
are, like,
all.
they're out here scamming people like no, they're doing God's work, you know,
Mhm.
in an amazing way, right? That brings thousands of people together to worship. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But like there's this kind of like this underlying issue that's kind of like ooh, like that's very very interesting.
It's iffy, right?
Yeah, for
Sorry,
sure.
I was on my phone, not because I was texting people, but because I literally Googled, what does Hillsong do with all the money that they get? That was a horrible idea because then all I got were like tons and tons of
Conspiracy
articles. Yeah, no,
theories.
like articles saying like, oh, I got kicked out of my conference seat because I was trying to ask questions to the nearby people. And then it brought in like, you know, how Hillsong's like stance on homosexuality and like how the head pastor has said very controversial things. So
Mhm.
I feel like that's like a conversation, like the idea of money and where it goes. That's like further extensive research is required.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's odd. I don't know. Every time I think about it, like I think about me and my sister. Right when I talk, she goes to these Hillsong concerts because she's located in Boston. They buy group tickets and everything,
Mhm.
and it's not like it's outrageously expensive, right? Like we're not talking like the whole. What was it? Have you heard about like how certain rap artists are getting like flack because they're like, oh, you claim that you like are for the black people, yet you charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars for your concerts, and
Hmm.
it is not accessible by the people that you
Yeah.
are trying to represent, right? So the same with I think with certain like Hillsong concerts, like of course like the closer you are, the more expensive the seats get, but like, yeah,
I
don't know.
didn't think about that though, actually. Like,
What?
I didn't think about like, oh, maybe I'm just some poor guy who wants to go worship or listen to worship music, and
Mhm.
I can't afford to go to this concert because it's a big name, like Hillsong or Bethel or Elevation or something. I didn't think of that.
And I'm not entirely sure if that's a valid point to
Right.
argue.
No,
but
of course, yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
no. I see what you're saying.
Mm.
I think that it just would easily fall apart if to stand on its own. But
Yeah, because you could make that argument about anything, you know,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Subway. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to eat a Subway, but I'm too poor for Subway. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's like there's this weird like I don't know. I want to say like duality to it, but that's not really the most right word.
Are you looking for dichotomy again?
No, I'm not. But like, yeah, there's these two kind of like, I guess maybe dichotomy, but they're not like as dang it. But yeah, like so. There's also like churches, right?
Mm.
And then we're like waging these two ideas of like legitimate professional worship versus like, oh, homegrown church worship. And it's like, that gets kind of awkward. And like, but like also there's something powerful about bringing that many people together and like having that quality of worship, right?
Mm.
I don't think God works more in those settings.
Right.
I would argue the opposite, but that even that I wouldn't argue very strong. But like, who knows?
Mhm.
So like, there's this whole double side of like, oh, this is logistically required, but also like, maybe not.
Yeah. And like you used an example the other week that I don't know if you were trying to be funny or not, but I thought it was good because you were like, if I'm making a sandwich for the glory of God and like I'm selling that as like an act of worship, like you're not going to be like,
Yeah.
you shouldn't charge like I shouldn't charge you for this sandwich, or like you shouldn't be charging money for sandwiches because you're providing a
Right.
service, you know. And like it's kind of that's a funny example, but like it's kind of the same.
Mhm.
Like music is we have a weird view of music in culture anyway.
Especially in Christianity too,
Yeah.
especially like Christian culture exponentially.
Yeah.
And every single example I give is both funny and truthful.
Ladies and
Um,
gentlemen, Tyler Page.
Yeah, I don't know. But I like thought of like, oh, Jesus was a carpenter. Like he also definitely charged customers
Mhm.
for producing houses or building something, right? Like
Mhm.
so there's like this weird thing of like, oh, like this is not like building a house, that's not worship. Making a sandwich, that's not worship. Oh, worship music? No, that's worship, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, like, okay, so where are you gonna draw that line, right?
Yeah.
So I like if I'm a Christian writer, and I write a book about Christianity. There's thousands of them, right?
Mhm.
Should I not be charging a book about that? Should
Yeah.
I not be charging
Mm.
for my book?
Mhm.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, like, uh,
Yeah.
there's like a livelihood to be made. Like,
Mhm.
you need to survive.
Yeah, that's like, oh, that makes me think a lot about so kind of like to give you guys a little bit of background. As you guys both know, like I worked at my summer camp for 7 years, right? I went from like a staff member, I was like a participating staff member to like a higher board individual who like was on the planning team, eventually on the directing board. And one question that we were always talking about is the idea of survivability, right? When you adapt to the culture, you also have to understand that you have to, in order to stay sustained, you need to provide for your people,
Right.
right? So in this case, our summer camp, 7 years. The first 4 years that I was there, it's all volunteer. To this day, it technically is volunteer.
Mm.
You're asking young adults, high schoolers, to give up 3 months, or like in this case, 2.5 months, or 2 months. I don't know. Sorry, the number just keeps dwindling. You're telling these people to give up 2 months of their summer, and now we live in a culture where now the priority is internships.
Mhm.
It's getting work experience. It's trying to make money, save money for
Mhm.
the long run. Correct. So as the 7 years progressed, not only did our numbers of staff decrease, but it was because like people are prioritizing other things, right? How can you provide an experience? Yes, it's for the glory of God, but you also have to realize, how can we run a summer camp if we don't have staff? And that's why we started talking about the idea of stipending. We talked about the idea of like, even though we can't provide like $5,000 for the entire summer, like we can provide X amount of money to like support the staff
Yeah.
in their time of need, right? So like they can do that. Like it's a very rigorous system that we have. Like you commit to it, you gotta stay in it. Like we talked about prioritizing the staff members as opposed to like connecting with people on the other side, because we're trying to develop our community and focus on like what God is working on. So that's also something that made me think about. It's like the idea like they need to survive in some way or some form.
Mhm.
That being said, talking about survivability, I pulled up the annual report for 2018 of Hillsong Church. Sorry, again, we're not trying to go after you. It's a 72-page document.
Oh, for sure.
But they do have all the numbers showing where they put which I think is, it's respectable.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that transparency is very important.
Mhm.
But yeah. Sorry.
No, I mean, as a number nerd, I'd be very interested to run those. But like, yeah, I mean, and of course, there's a whole argument of transparency there that I think is they do well, and of course, like, there's always going to be some some nitpick and some things
Oh,
they
of
don't.
course, yeah.
Mhm.
As is everything, broken people tend to do dumb things.
Mhm.
But like, and that's the church as a whole. But I bet you probably somewhere in there you can see how much they make from gross ticket sales,
Yeah.
venues, and how much they pay off whatever.
Mhm.
I'm sure the information exists somewhere. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like. It's such a weird idea.
Mhm.
I like. I'm drawn back to that idea of like, where is the line of like active worship versus active service?
Yeah.
And the correct answer is there is no line. And like that's the answer but that's a runaway train, which is so dumb. I'm so bad.
So scared.
So like I was like, okay, so if there is no line, then therefore everything is worship and everything is service. So then I was like, oh, so now we can charge door fees at churches, and we can, and I was like, okay, no. So then we can't charge anything for anything.
Right.
And I was like, well, but no. Yeah, I don't know why my brain went two different directions there, but
Mm. I almost wonder if part of it's because a concert in some ways resembles something that happens at church. Like, I wonder if that's where part of the like,
yeah, I agree.
Uh,
I mean,
I can't come up with any words for some reason.
You
I wonder,
mean people practice, people like get the set ready, and then it's like, oh hey, like we're gonna go through these songs. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like help.
as
like,
an
Joey.
observer too, also like
Mhm.
it feels very like there's a worship band and there's
Yeah,
slides
like, this
and
is what
there's,
happens
there's an
Sunday morning.
interaction, right? So like it's very similar to an environment they're used to. So I think, as Chris was saying, it's like
Mhm.
being charged for something that they used to get for free, and people are like, whoa, like I don't know how I feel about that.
Because you're not usually like to use the book example, you're not usually reading like a Tim Keller book at church as part of worship, you know,
Right.
like
No, yeah.
so maybe that's why people feel more comfortable. I don't know. That just came to my
It
mind.
makes
That might
me-
not
yeah,
be true.
No, I think that plays a big piece in it.
Yeah.
So you guys probably figure like I'm not a big fan of Christian concerts because I think that's like where my so what I would say is why pay for something when you can just go to the church service on Sunday, right?
Mhm.
So again, this is pinpointing at Hillsong because that's the only experience I have, right? But when I went to Hillsong Church when I was in New York City, like we had to walk through security, we had to wait, we got our seats, and you would have loved it because the music, like the sound, the music, the bass was so heavy. Like the
Yeah.
jacket and my pants were like shaking. Like,
Oh,
it's a
sure.
weird
It's
sensation. I was like,
high
whoa,
quality. For sure.
Yeah.
like amazing, like fog me, like the whole the whole 3 yards, whatever. it's
9 yards.
9 yards. Wow, I am so bad at
the
these
whole
things.
3 yards.
In retrospect, I have no clue what 9
I-
yards
Yeah, actually,
means,
where did
but
that expression come from?
I don't know.
We'll find out on another. I'm actually gonna
We'll
Google
Google
this next time. But yeah, I just remember standing there. I was singing, but I was also observing around me because I was like, interesting, right? Like, you have these people. I went to the bathroom and like the people there. I was looking at their outfits. I was like, holy moly, their outfits probably cost as much as my tuition. Like,
Mm.
there were some heavy, like,
Oh,
it's everybody, like all types of people in this place worshiping the Lord. And then the sermon happened, right? I took notes on that sermon, but all I remember was that when I took notes on that sermon, it was like the same things repeated. It was like, God is good.
Mhm.
God is good. Like, it was a very, like, the guy's like in a tight, like, button up shirt, and you're just like, dang, he's got some biceps, and he's got like a revolver tattoo on, and you're just like, I don't know who you are, but you are so cool and so swaggy right now. But just that energy,
Yeah.
right? And I remember inside, I was like internally like judging. I'm like, this feels so fake. Like something just seems off. But then when we went back to the second worship set, the woman in front of me just started screaming and crying, and then she went down on her knees, just like sobbing and just like singing out to the Lord.
Mm.
So when I looked at that, then I was like, for some people, it works. For other people, it might not work. It might not be what they're
Yeah.
used to. But if this woman is truly experiencing the Lord in this space, in this time, then power be to God, right? Like,
Yeah. I think for me,
yeah.
I like that because for me, I think part of it is like, church and religion and God shouldn't all be about emotion.
Mm.
Like, just trying to draw emotions
Yeah,
out of
yeah,
people, obviously. And I think like a concert space to me feels more natural for a place where you can draw out emotion without it being because I would feel way more comfortable going to a Christian concert with a fog machine than like a church service with a
Yeah.
fog machine, and like maybe pulling on emotions a little more. And like, to me, that feels like a more appropriate venue for that kind of thing.
Mm.
Where, I mean, I don't know how I'd feel about like a tacky, repetitive sermon, but if that's what it takes, like, because to me, like, music is way more emotionally,
Yeah.
like, I don't know, like, that's where I would want that to happen as
Yeah.
opposed to like every Sunday somebody trying to be like
Mm.
drawing that out.
But here's the thing, right? You said it yourself. It's like for you personally, music is
Yeah.
where the
Right,
emotion
yeah.
comes from, right? Like, again, I still stand by my statement. You want to go if you want to experience like a Hillsong concert, just go to like the Hillsong service on Sunday. Like, it's amazing. Like the quality is amazing. You're just like, whoa.
Mhm.
But yeah, like it comes back to the individual. How do you experience God? How does God speak to you? Like,
Mm.
maybe this woman comes every Sunday and this is where she breaks down and just cries out to the Lord.
Mhm.
Granted, it was kind of weird because at some point, like a ton of kids went on and started dancing, and I was like, "All right, I don't know what I'm at, but okay." Like it was just very odd.
Good.
Yeah. Sorry. I was like, yeah, oh yeah, that also happened. Like they're like, oh yeah, and then all the kids go to Sunday school, and they like all the kids were like jamming out on the stage. They're like, okay, and then they all like filed off, and I was like, what is going on? But that aside,
Yeah.
if that's how you experience God, if that's really where God finds you in that space, then
Mm.
awesome. Like, good for you.
Yeah.
I just don't agree.
That's fair. I'm glad we can disagree or agree. Maybe we don't disagree as much as I think.
I mean, I love concerts, but
Oh yeah,
I just feel uncomfortable paying like $30-$40 for that. I don't know.
fair.
Hi, Tyler.
And the concert I was going to go to, like, since I missed out on the tickets, the leftover ones were like 200 something. I mean, they were hefty.
Yeah, and as you brought up, like portion of that could just be Ticketmaster making their,
Yeah,
Ticketmaster
Um,
sucks.
that I don't feel bad about saying
Yeah,
at all.
I
That's
can- I see
yeah.
I think that's a normal consensus to come to. yeah, like it's. I don't know. Some of it I think is like our background.
Yeah.
It's very like reflective people opposed to like charismatic.
Mhm.
And like we'd rather go like, okay, so like let's dissect this, let's sit down, let's think about this, let's chat this out, let's like figure this out, opposed to like let's see what happens and like ride the wave.
Yeah.
And so I think some of that is like our
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
selves, being
That's true,
reflected
too.
in our thoughts, which
'Cause,
is
I'd
wrong.
rather go to like a concert where they're playing hymns on an organ than
You are
anything.
so
So
weird.
Yeah, I don't agree with
I don't know
that.
how
but
to
that's-
feel about
I mean, I like
Everyone
organ,
turn
but-
to hymn number 5.
I don't remember which one's 5 is. I'm slacking.
Oh, wow.
Neither can I. It's okay.
I'm impressed that you even.
Chris
started
and I
thinking-
used to be able to do like a good portion of them.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of hymns. Oh my goodness.
382 in the Gray Hymnal. Be thou my vision.
See, 4 is what is 4? Oh my gosh,
And can it be?
is it
Yeah.
and can it be?
I don't know.
If you guys have an
Oh, I was thinking of
FBC
3.
Gray Hymnal, flip to number 4. Oh, he has one.
You can turn to number
has
4.
Oh,
I forgot I had one.
We're gonna end every podcast episode now by singing a hymn.
Yeah, there you go.
Please turn with us to hymn number 4.
Be
Tyler-
exalted, oh God, 5. Or did we say 4?
4. What was 4?
Both.
Oh,
We
how
kinda-
great thou art.
Wow. Tyler
With
just
the
like
key
for our listeners, Tyler just excitedly got out of his chair, ran over to
Ran
his
over to the
bookshelf,
bookshelf.
and pulls out an FBC hymnal. Anywho,
Yeah, and yeah, so I think a lot of it is, as always, we have no answer for anything.
Mhm.
But I think maybe this point resonates with me the most. But like that line of like service versus like worship, and like how it's very easy to draw, but also like if you really think hard about it, like, oh, maybe it's like not that easy.
do they have a mission statement for why they have concerts? Like, I'm actually very curious because like you talk about like the line between service and worship, and I've never like okay like when Chris Tomlin came on stage, did he have like a spiel before he like started like worshiping?
No,
Just
not
went
really.
straight into worship.
Yeah, they pretty much just dove right in.
Okay. I'm just very curious because like
Yeah.
do they like preface it's like hey like we're here to create a space of worship, or it's like oh like this is the purpose of the night. I mean again like if you can always like for the sake of safety like you can argue that oh like they could frame it that way and
Yeah.
then like create, but like again like if their hearts are truly on that, like I want to interview like the guy, or I want like we should hit up the Hillsong guest, the guy dude, and be like yo hey why do you have concerts, tell us why. I don't know, I'm just very curious like
Yeah.
what they would say to that.
I'm sure a lot of it's outreach. Also, just like, why would anyone have a concert, right? It's like their passion. That's what they like to do. They want to show the world.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mm.
The Hillsong dude.
Can we talk
The
about,
one.
Can we talk about branding though? I know this
Oh,
is
yeah.
probably one of our longer episodes, but I'm just so curious. Like,
Yeah.
what are your
Because that, yeah, well, that's something that I started thinking about when I was writing this. Is like, maybe it's a particular brand that's causes the controversy. Because like Hillsong and Bethel and Elevation, like those are all huge. But if it's some like indie Christian artist holding a little worship concert, I feel like we'd feel like less controversial about it. There'd be
no, I
less
agree.
about it. Yeah.
I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, John Mark McMillan. And I was like, oh, why am I like totally behind that man producing his music? And I was
Right,
like,
yeah.
Right. Which even he's like pretty large too.
Mhm.
I think like King's Kaleidoscope because like they don't fit that brand.
Right.
Yeah,
They're
they're
just
not
this
like a
weird-
church.
Yeah, they're this weird wonky like Christian band who's like very raw, and I'm like yeah. I'll pay to
Yeah.
go to that, but I
Mhm.
like for Hillsong or Bethel, I'm just like.
Mhm.
Eh.
Yeah.
Did you make a meme about like a worship leader like starter set?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay,
I'm sure
I feel
someone did.
like right. It's like oh, like you wear the flannel, you wear like the tighter
I should,
jeans,
though.
and like
Mhm.
the guitar.
I have seen the
yeah,
meme
you know
you're
what I'm talking
talking
about.
about.
I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
like that's when I think Hillsong, Bethel, Elevation. That's what I think. Like
Like the beautiful people, you
the
know?
beautiful
like-
people with flannels, like like
all in shape.
yeah,
like-
all in shape, and like just like. And they have like those funky, like clear, maybe it's clear rim glasses now. No shade at anyone who has clear rim glasses, but it's just like, oh man, like I have an image
Yeah.
in my head. But yeah,
Mm.
branding.
And why am I always divided? I'm literally I hate this so much. But like my first thought was like, okay, logistically speaking and like performance speaking, you're like, oh, like they're together and they're quality and they practice and they're good musicians,
Mhm.
right? And they're good looking people. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But like, yeah, also, but like that whole point of like the indie artist of like, oh, but like I would support them opposed to supporting.
Right.
It could just be that that's where the money is, right?
Mhm.
And we don't like people with a lot of money.
True.
And I'm sure there's some like emotions of jealousy or like something else being at play there.
Mhm.
And I think it's really difficult to relate to someone who has a lot of, an organization that has a lot of money,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right? I mean, like you said, it was a 70-page document,
72.
72-page document of their finance report. So like
Yeah.
I could do my finance report on maybe 2 pages if I was detailed.
Right. I don't have any finances.
There you go.
Yeah. Zero pages. Let's go.
But like, so I think like the money aspect
Mhm.
is what plays a huge part in it. Also, like they're good at it.
Right.
So like we kind of get upset at like, oh wow, they're like doing this better than we are.
Yeah. And it feels
comparison.
distant.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like I follow like Monty and Illumination Project on Instagram, and
Mhm.
like they're obviously very good, but it feels much lower production because they're not Hillsong. They're
Right.
not this massive church with infinite resources. They're like dudes with families and
Right.
guitars. Like
And so like we have met. So those are both those 2 bands Chris is talking about were worship bands at summer camp that Chris and I led at,
Mm.
and so we've met both TJ and Josh, and like they're great guys. So
Yeah.
like we're like that could be because I first thought I was like, oh TJ, he's great.
right.
But like
like Greg,
I
the
know him
bassist.
personally. Right. Yeah.
So
Like,
good.
Sorry. But like, so there's like this whole weird, like, I think because there's this separation and lack of like being able to relate with, because I can relate to John Mark McMillan, right?
Mhm.
Kind of. I mean, he's a lot more talented than I am, but
Mhm.
he's also like an average dude who like creates songs with his wife and like, is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But like, I can't relate to a multi-million-dollar church corporation that produces extremely high caliber of music.
And we're
Yeah.
talking about, and you use the word corporation. Like
Mhm.
when you talk about the individuals, like when you say corporation, I'm like, oh, like all I see are a ton of people. Like I don't even see individual faces.
I honestly could
Right.
not even name.
A single Hillsong or
No.
Bethel or
Well,
Elevation
the only
worship
person I can
individual.
name from Elevation is Chris Brown because it's funny because his name is Chris Brown. I don't even know what he does. I think he's like the music producer or something, but that's the only person I can name.
That's crazy.
But like, because his name is Chris Brown and it's funny. Because I was like, whoa, Chris Brown? What? This is so
Ooh.
weird. And I was like, oh, wrong Chris Brown.
I can name one person as well. His name's Timothy Chu, and
Interesting.
he's a sound producer for Hillsong now. He was part of the team that pushed one of the songs to be nominated for a Grammy.
Interesting.
It's actually so fascinating. He works for Hillsong Boston right now. Went from our church and went down the street.
But like, yeah, I think I don't know, to kind of wrap up, I think the point of like relatability. Yeah, and like all 3 of us coming from like small churches with kind of ragtag worship teams.
Right.
You
Yeah.
are the
Um,
definition of ragtag worship.
I
team.
mean, yeah, like being a ragtag worship team
Yeah,
myself.
right.
Like
Seriously.
spotting and creating those. Like, and there's something about that I just like. It's always gonna be a mess. The chord changes are never gonna be right ever. It's
Yeah.
fine. Like, but like I don't know. So I think like a lot of this is like I don't want to say jealousy because that's really easy to pin it on that, and I don't want to pin it on that. But like it definitely plays a large piece in it, right? Like
Mhm.
we as people like strive to have that much influence,
Mm.
and so therefore we're like seeking to find something wrong with it.
Mhm.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. Like if they have that much influence, it must
Something must be bad.
become ungodly at a certain
Right.
point. Yeah.
And like you could debate that
Mhm.
either way, but yeah, I don't know. So
Once again, another podcast with no definite answer.
I don't think
We
we'll
did
ever
it.
will.
We solved it.
They are. I don't know. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get my car. I'm gonna open an Elevation worship track, and I'm gonna drive and listen to it.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Do it again. It's a banger.
Yeah.
I trashed on Waymaker a couple of days ago, but now that's grown on me.
Yeah. Like I heard
That's
Waymaker
Leland,
first.
though.
I
I
was
mean-
like, I don't know, and then I heard it 400 times in one session. I was like, oh, I like Waymaker. This is good.
Yeah, I mean, Leland, he's a weirdo, but that's okay.
Is he?
Yeah.
Since he's a weirdo, we're okay.
I relate with him.
Yeah.
'cause he's a
Yeah.
weirdo. Therefore, he's okay.
Therefore, we will support him in his endeavors.
Also, his name's Leland. That's so weird.
It's not Leland, just
No, Leeland. Leland.
That's a weird name.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Anyways, selfless plug for Leland there. Yeah,
Very selfless, actually.
very. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. This was episode 23. We were talking about Christian concerts, and surprise, surprise, we didn't come to an answer. But yeah, thanks for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe, and check out our website to see all of our platforms that we're streaming on and all of our social media and stuff. So you go to www.3losersinachurch.com.
Number
and
three.
Number 3 or
The number 3, thank you.
Ooh.
And then you can see all the streaming platforms we're on.
We made it to
Um,
Spotify.
We
finally.
did. We are on Spotify.
Thank you, Tyler.
No longer hates us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. We are out.
We out.
Have a good one.
Dab.